hub of where the ministries are is what Kennedy is looking at.
Where is he going to get the money from for all this economic transformation? We know Ghana's debt stock and, being at the IMF and the World Bank. Where is he going to get the money for this big industrious plan?
Kennedy's vision is going to put an end to Ghana's consistent visits to the International Monetary Fund. And I'll tell you why. Because we're going to create our own wealth. Okay? Because if you put a factory in the northern part of the country that does shea nut juice, if you put a factory in the northern part of the country that does coconut juice, if you put a factory in eastern region that does plantain juice and all of that, tomato juice, that is creating jobs, that is bringing a lot of money. And cassava gives you about 32 different products. You can do ethanol from sugar cane, and you can even get charcoal from coconuts and all of that. If you look at the value chain of the stream of factories that will be created, it's going to create a lot more money. So we're not going to be looking at our gold, we're not going to be looking at our cocoa, because there's a lot more resources that we can get from the products that we have in country that we're not using it for. The smoke that we wear, beautiful smoke that we wear, it's coming from the plantain stream. Plantain, yes, the back of the plantain stream.
The yarn that we import to make
yes, we can use our plantain stream to get the thread to be able to do our own batakari. The carpets that we have, we can always use all the resources that we have in this country to be able to do that. And so that's where we're going to have our resources coming from.
Now, granted, people are asking, because maybe tell us, we do not know completely who the man Kennedy Agyapong is, that he's an economic, brain, as against his opponents, like Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who has had the chance to lead and been termed the economic, brain, the economic wastegate of the party and all of that. Is it that Mr. Kennedy Agyapong has a team of brilliant economists that will ensure that these plans that you have mentioned, come into fruition, or he himself understands the terrain of Ghana's economics and will be the one spearhead in this?
Kennedy himself is an economist. And I'll tell you why. Economy is not in books. Economy is in implementation. And that's where you get a real value of economy. I mean, economy is not in books. It's in implementation. A man who has started 16 different companies and more. A man who has already laid out 15 billionaires who are ready to invest into the Ghanaian economy. And so economy is not in books, it's an implementation. You can go to GRA, look at the taxes that Kennedy pays and contributes to the macroeconomy of this country. So Kennedy himself is the economist, because he's able to turn over his investment into a lot more entrepreneurial endeavors. Every now he's looking for companies to buy. He's going to be building the biggest pharmaceutical in Central region. He's put up the biggest steel factory on the continent of Africa worth about $130 million US, starting capital of about $34 million US. And so if you're talking about a real economist is one who has implemented the theories that people are talking about. And I mean, we teach in the university. In the university, we teach theories, and then we graduate theorists, and then the theorists are not able to implement what we teach them. But then people who are in Makola, Malata, Bosokai, all of those people, they are the real economists. They understand the value of money. They really are the people that you must work with. And so for me, Kennedy is the economist.
Okay. The private sector and imports and exports. We talk about a country, the MPP's grand vision was Ghana beyond aid. And with the revenue that's made from exports, and also if we were an economy that produced for itself, fed itself, and exported, how that would have been better off to reduce our debt stock than relying on imports. How stringent is he going to be on blocking these kind of things or transforming that into a Ghana that feeds itself?
In all of our Ghana's history and the leaders that have come, I'm sure that many people remember Kutu Agyapong for a lot of things. And Kutu Agyapong said, you need to feed Ghana, grow Ghana, and eat what you grow. And Kennedy has spoken about an export-driven country, not an import-driven country. We're not going to be dependent on the global world to be able to be importing things into the economy and into the country. We're going to be a country that is going to be contributing significantly to world trade and rather exporting things from this country, raw materials, finished products out of this country into the European market, into the Asian market, and ensuring that Ghana becomes an export-driven country rather than an import-driven country, which is why industrialization becomes a key thing for him. Kennedy is that industrialist that is going to industrialize this country, and that's the person that we need.
Does it seem that he will stand tall and against party members who, are big importers of, items that we can produce ourselves?
Well, I think that the goal really is to be able to equip the Ghanaian people to have their own self-identity. And if you look at the sub-region of West Africa, you're having a lot more global giants. And it's important that if the data tells us that by 2063, which is the data from the Africa Union, that Africa is going to host the highest number of young people under the age of 25, about 1 billion people, which clearly means that Africa is the market. And if Africa is the market, you need a leader who is an entrepreneur that can be able to turn your country into a market that people will find your country viable enough to be able to invest in.
Okay. Let's then talk about, so we've talked about the market, let's talk about how Ghana can block revenue, corruption. Ghana loses over $3 billion to corruption every year. Is he going to subject himself to scrutiny to show that he's untainted and blemished? And how will he ensure accountability and transparency in his, administration if he gets the nod?
Kennedy has been the biggest citizen vigilante. His voice has been credible since the 1989 till date. He's not lost his credibility. He's not lost his voice. He's consistently fought for the vulnerable. And if we're a country that is worth its salt, we need to be a country of discipline. And that's not what we have continually over the years. And so people go to work and leave at any time. There's not good structures of corporate governance. Kennedy is going to enhance all those weak structures and make sure that we strengthen that. And so he's going to be accountable. He has stated very clearly that if you come into his government and you want to be corrupt, you're out of the door almost immediately, because he's not going to entertain that at all. He's made his money through hard work, and he's going to make sure that the Ghanaian people benefit from their wealth. And
in this grand scheme of things, you think the Ghanaian people, the party, are willing to accept such a leader who will speak truth to power and prosecute corrupt officials from his government?
Absolutely. And I think that this is what the party needs. The party clearly is at a stage where you need a leader who is par excellence, a leader who can put his brains on the table, not one who is manipulated.
How much has he stood against corruption in this country in the past, in his own government and, in opposition?
For the past 33 years, Kennedy has stood against corruption. For the past 3 years, he's spoken against corruption. He's spoken against people that have been corrupt, people that have been siphoning money, people that have not been living up to the standards of good corporate governance practices. You recall when he was board chair for Ghana Gas, he goes to the office at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., expecting people to be at work, and people are not there. He tells them, go back home. And so, and that's where really corruption starts from. Okay, when people are not paid well, people become corrupt. And so Kennedy is a strong advocate of paying people well. If you pay people well, people will not be corrupt. Okay. If you put a good environment and a clean environment in, people will not be corrupt. If you are giving kickbacks, people will not be corrupt. And Kennedy has done business in this country for the past 33 years. There's not been a single allegation of corruption that has come against him. And so he's going to make sure that same tenets that he holds dear as values proposition is what he's going to bring into his governance.
Okay. Let's talk about sentiments that he goes overboard, and there's been sentiments that he passes, before he even started the flag bearership race, that border on tribal sentiments, that border on excesses in dealing with corruption, or anybody who does not, see his ideology as the right way to go.
To err is human, to forgive is divine. And for me, I look at Kennedy as a real human being and a good representative of what true humanity should be like. And if you look at Kennedy, his passion exceeds what he does. He's very passionate about everything, and in context, he is able to clearly state that wrong is wrong and speak to it. I look at all the issues that Kennedy has spoken about, and is about people. All the fights that he's fought in terms of a freedom fighter is about people, and I see persons within the African continent that I can equate to Kennedy Agyapong. One example who is a model for me is Nelson Madiba Mandela. I mean, of the apartheid and South Africa. One of them is also Steve Biko. Young people who really fought for the liberation of South Africa, and Kwame Nkrumah as well. Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Akwege, and all the people that fought for the independence of this country. And so if you look at an individual, you need to be able to value an individual and check the motives for why they do what they do. If you're able to weigh the motives for why they do what they do, you will not misjudge them. And I think that many people might have misrepresented who Kennedy is in terms of where his heart is. His heart and soul is for the Ghanaian people. His heart and soul is for equality. His heart and soul is to ensure that people are not treated badly. His heart and soul is to ensure that people are not mistreated. His heart and soul is to ensure that people get the equitable distribution of resources. And that's really what it is.
Okay. What do you say to sentiments that how he is, his persona, his vision for the country does not align with the greater ideologies of the NPP, and so there are divisions that people do not feel like he's the right man to lead the party and eventually Ghana?
When the Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition was being formed, Kennedy was a member of it. Was one of the young people that were in the home of Yabuache, who is the father of Ochihini Amwiti for a penny, in New Jersey, who dedicated his home for the Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition to be formed. And so very clearly, Kennedy holds the ethos of the libertarian government that the New Patriotic Party professes, the property-owning democracy, that as a private individual, you have a right to be able to own a property that the government will not come and take it away from you. Remember that we're coming at the backbench of the PNDC, AFRC era, where if you own a Peugeot, it will be taken away from you. And so the New Patriotic Party came at the backbench of ensuring that as an individual, you have a right to be able to own a property, which is why we have the property-owning democracy, that every individual has a right to be able to hold a property. And Kennedy assumed such rights. And so it will be very difficult for anyone to think that Kennedy does not hold the values of the New Patriotic Party, one who was served during Professor Dubois-Henne's time, John Ajekum Kufuor, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, served even in opposition governments, served John Evans Atta Mills's government when he was in Parliament, which was the fifth parliament at the time, because he went into parliament in the third parliament with John Ajekum Kufuor as president, fourth parliament with John Ajekum Kufuor as president, fifth parliament is when Evans Atta Mills came, was in parliament when John Dramani Mahama was president, first term, and served Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo two-term president. So for him, as a 24-year member of parliament on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, I mean, what else would you expect? That he holds the key values of the New Patriotic Party, which is the sovereignty of the Ghanaian people.
What do you say to people who say that he's not open to wise counsel and team building, and when he thinks about something and this is how it should go, he just goes ahead to say it and do it?
Nobody can have a sustainable business, 16 different companies for 33 years, employ 77,000 people, and not be open for ideas. I mean, that's unthinkable, because Kennedy believes in what we call the synchronized thinking, that when he sits around the table, he wants to be able to hear your opinion. And I mean, he's asked several times, Doug, what's your opinion on this matter? I sit with him in council meetings, and he does ask people, what's your opinion on this matter?
Does he work with your opinions?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been several times where we've had very in-depth conversations, and he's sought my ideas and my views, and I've shared those views with him, and he's been very open to accept those views as well. So, I mean, for anyone who would say that Kennedy is not open to ideas, that person is not really looking at the moral fabric of a human being. This is an individual who has 16 different companies. This is an individual who has managed a constituency for 24 years. I mean, how do you interact with human beings if you're not open for people's ideas? You can't build a constituency by yourself.
Because the MPP minister, Atta Akyea, mentioned that his temperament is uncontrollable and publicly visible. He even described him as...
All of this conversation is about consensus and cooperation. It's consensus, cooperation, and collaboration. And that's the kind of leader that we want.
Okay.
We don't want a leader who cannot build consensus. We don't want a leader who cannot cooperate. We don't want a leader that cannot collaborate. And Kennedy is a leader who cooperates, who collaborates, and one who is making sure that we build consensus. And that's what he is about.
Okay. So I just want to ask also, what makes it look like a high national stressful position such as the president of the country, where what he says has a bearing on, you know, the foreign outlook of what Ghana is on the party, and then, you know, Africa in general? Does it seem like, you know, his temperament can be managed? Because it's not the first time this sentiment has come up, aside from Mr. Atta Akyea's comments.
I think that people underestimate what it means to be president. When you're president, you're not on your own. That's what people must remember. You are president of a country. You sworn an oath. There's a certain authority that comes upon you that changes who you are and what you are and what you intend to do. Because whatever you do has repercussions and consequences on people. And so, for me, Kennedy will continue to establish good bilateral relations with our foreign partners.
Yes, I want to speak on the foreign policy.
He would continue to protect the integrity of Ghana and Ghana's sovereignty. He will build stronger partnerships with our Asian brothers, so China, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, all our other Asian countries, because it's going to be using the Asian Tiger principle to be able to revamp and rebuild this economy. And obviously deepen our greater relationship with the United States of America, deepen our broader relationships with Europe, Antarctica, any of the other countries that you can think of, Australia and all of that, and ensure that the Pan-Africanism of the Ghanaian people and even Africa becomes a forefront, and also ensure that Africa begins to trade amongst itself. Is one of the things that Kennedy will be looking at.
What are the challenges that Mr. Agyapong has been encountering? I know that you've been doing the regional tours, speaking to people to understand what they want to shape the policies that he'll be coming on. What do you anticipate are the challenges?
Well, you know, to be honest, this is a delegated election. I've stated that there are three types of politicians. There are politicians that their country likes them, their party likes them. There are politicians that their country likes them, their party does not like them. And there are politicians that both do not like them. Both their party and their country do not like them.
Okay.
Kennedy falls in the category of a politician that his country likes him and his party likes him because he speaks for the vulnerable. And in this country, look at the percentage of vulnerable people. Look at the percentage of people who wake up every single day wanting to work hard to put food on their table. There are more. And so Kennedy represents such people. And as we tour the length and breadth of this country, we are in our 13th region this morning. In Oti region, we begin in Oti region this morning. We'll finish on Wednesday and then move on to our three biggest regions that we have done or we are yet to do. We've done Western region, we've done Western North, we've done Bono region, we've done Bono East, we've done Ahafo, we've done Savannah, Northeast, Upper East, Upper West, Northern region, and we're coming down in Oti region now. We've done Eastern region, and if you look at all the regions that we are going through and all the delegates that we are speaking to, you clearly see a clear difference that this time around the delegates are making up their mind to put a man who represents them there. Oftentimes, when you look into the mirror, you want to see yourself. You want to see a man who has struggled like you have struggled. You want to see a man who has made it through all odds. And you want to see a man who understands and appreciates your own struggles. Okay. And you want to see a man who can be able to uplift you from abject poverty into wealth. And that's what Kennedy represents.
What do you say, finally, just before we go to, you know, sentiments that they are preferred candidates for the MPP? And how does Mr. Kennedy Agyapong, you know, topple that and still stand tall in all of that?
I think that
Because the polls are also speaking. I do not
well,
know.
I think the biggest poll for me is the poll of the 31st January 2026 election. I mean, I've gone for elections before, and so I mean, polls and surveys, I mean, really doesn't mean much to me. Kennedy's unique selling proposition is extremely very different from all the other candidates. And for me, if I look at Kennedy's humanity, Kennedy is a human being, a real human being. There are many people who are not human beings, and I'll tell you, they don't see people. Kennedy sees people.
He sees vulnerable populations.
He sees human beings and recognizes the needs of human beings and attends to the needs of human beings. I'll tell you one example. We're in Confanoche. We kept going up and down, and OPD was full. People were sitting on the floor. I'd lived outside the country. I didn't find anything wrong with it. Kennedy kept going up and down. He saw people were sitting on the floor. He said, let's go across the street. He bought every single wheelchair across the street and brought it to the hospital and asked that they sit on the wheelchair, because he considers that human beings must not sit on the floor. That's a value proposition that I didn't even see or recognize. I thought it was normal. So we need a leader who sees human beings for who human beings are and attends to the needs of human beings for what human beings want. Kwame Nkrumah said, if I thought that Ghanaians needed bread and butter and milk, I would not have been constructing all these things. The needs of the Ghanaian people are not skyrocket things. They are the basic things of human beings: shelter, food, accommodation, and work. That's all people want. And once you're able to provide that, I think that you can have a good economy, you can have a good country, you can have a good livelihood, and that's what people seek for.
Let's wrap up with security and how hydra-headed the situation is looking with our neighboring countries and Ghana. What's the outlook like for him when he is the flag bearer and eventually, going to be president of Ghana?
I'll tell you, Kennedy will take his oath as the commander-in-chief of the country very seriously. He served as the chair for the Defense and Interior in Parliament when he was a member of Parliament. And so he clearly understands the threats that we face within the ecosystem. And I'm very certain that he will use his intelligence that he has gathered over the years and experience that he has over the years to be able to ensure that our borders are strong, our sovereignty remains strong, that our threats are minimized, and also ensure that we continue to have a safe and peaceful country.
Smart Gun
And
update.
in terms of security, is there a strategy to, I'm going back to the temperament again because of the kind of
Smart Gun
sentiments that
update.
people say that he passes and how it borders on national security and regional security on the African continent, to ensure that what he says is in line with, Ghana's approach to dealing with these security threats?
Well, this is a member of parliament for 24 years, six-term member of parliament, served as committee head for national security and intelligence. I mean, what other temperament would you speak of? Because he succeeded in that. It was through Kennedy that we were able to put together the national security architecture, which is a document that is available now. It was through Kennedy that we were able to put together the cybersecurity architecture as well. You recall that President John Dramani Mahame's account was hacked. Okay? When Sam George became Minister of Communication, he sacked Osafo Mafu, who was the head of cybersecurity at the National Communications Authority. He was high level. He's not a politician. He's a son of a politician. He was high level. It exposed Ghana's president to hacking. His account was hacked in this country. And so, I mean, for Kennedy, who has sat in parliament, who understands how to build a system that cannot be hacked, a country that is safe, I mean, I think that for him, I mean, there's nothing that comes about temperament here, because his temperament exhibited in parliament. A six-term member of parliament, 24 years, served on various committees: communication, judiciary, budget, local government, intelligence, security, and national defense. I mean, for me, I think that his security intelligence par excellence would be very good for this country.
Okay, let's look at his health approach as well. Women and children, vulnerable groups, and then health. You talked about him as a person and how he is, helps poor people. He has businesses, he's employed people. He goes to the hospital, he sees the sick and the weak, and he wants to help them. But what's the grand plan like for policy direction for help?
I think that clearly you need to be able to have a clear plan to ensure that the distance between a home and a hospital is proximal enough. And Kennedy is the only leader, politician in this country that has single-handedly built a cardio center for the 37 military hospital. since 1957 till date. The Ghanaian people know that. We've had presidents upon presidents, including military leaders. Not a single one of them thought about the fact that we need to be able to build a cardio center for our military that can serve the Ghanaian people. Kennedy single-handedly is putting that up. And so it tells you where his health interest is. That wherever you find yourself in this country, you can fall sick. And so for that reason, you must equip every single hospital. When we went to Western Region, Ifian Kwanta Hospital, he made a donation of drugs, of wheelchairs, and money. And so all throughout the campaign tour, every single region that we have gone to, we've donated drugs, we've donated wheelchairs, we've given money. And so his health policy is clear. We've had people in this country that have died. And they died in this country when they thought they could be flown out. And there are many examples. Okay, we had a minister who was in Ashanti region. They were rushing him to come to Accra and fly him to Germany. He died in Suhu. You know it. You understand? And so our hospitals are not first aid. That's what we need to say. Kennedy does not believe that our hospitals are first aid. They believe that our hospitals must be fully equipped. Okay. Today, if I fall ill now, this is GBC, right? You rush me to the closest, either 37 behind me or Ridge Hospital to the left. You understand? And so me, I don't go to any hospital outside the country. When I'm sick, I walk. UGMC, any hospital I find, I'll just walk in. You understand? And that is how it must be. We must build a country where our leaders can go to hospitals in Ghana. We must ban all these flying out of people. What can't we have in this country?
Okay. How do you feel about likening the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong to U.S. President Donald Trump? It's persona versus him.
I don't think any two persons are the same. I believe in the individual character and uniqueness of an individual, and I don't think that any two persons are the same. I mean, the politics of America is very different from the politics in Ghana. Choco politics is different from the politics in New York. You understand? I mean, Kumasi politics is different from the politics in Washington. Okay, where else? Whole politics is different from the politics in Massachusetts. What else can I say? Let me name one. Wale politics is different from the politics in California. I mean, name all of it. Okay, the politics of Texas is different from the politics in Ajime Bwakanov or Asin Central. And so I don't believe that any two persons are the same. But I can tell you that Kennedy's unique character is the character that Africa needs and Ghana needs. Because all too often we are having weak leaders. Leaders who go to the table and they go cup in hand begging.
Even leaders who have led the party that he wants to lead.
I'm talking of leaders of Ghana. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, I mean we have all of it. I was excited when the G8 meeting came to an end in South Africa. And when President Cyril Ramaphosa hit it and said the next G8 summit is going to be hosted by the United States of America. That's the world we want to live in. We want to live in a world where we don't feel inferior. Why should we feel inferior because we are Africans? Why should we feel inferior because we are Ghanaians? I mean, I struggle with the idea of people always queuing at embassies looking for visas. For what? Kennedy is going to put an end to that. I mean, no, because you see, if you have good pastures in your country, there's no need going anywhere for green. The ground is green over here. And Kennedy is going to make sure that all these dry patches that we have in Ghana is going to be green.
Okay. 8 weeks till the elections, I think you mentioned. What's happening before the D-Day?
Well, before D-Day, we've got 3 more regions. After we are done with Oti region, we are entering the biggest region, which is Greater Accra. We're going to be going to Ashanti region, and we're going to be going to Kennedy's home region, which is Central region.
Okay.
And so we're working with the party, the Presidential Elections Committee, to ensure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's. This is an election that we are being very vigilant. It's an election for Kennedy Agyapong to win. It builds on the foundation of this party. It builds on the future of this party. It builds on all of us young people who have a place and a role in politics. I mean, Kennedy's victory is a victory for the Ghanaian people. I have calls from the east, the west, the north, and the south. People who are not party people, NDC people, who who tell us that they will vote for Kennedy when Kennedy becomes flag bearer of the new patriotic party. And so we're looking at security. Obviously, it's going to be an incident-free election. You should be bold enough to go out and vote, and vote number one, because Kennedy is number one. Be careful when they turn the ballot paper, turn it upside down, and make sure that you vote for number one. Don't go and vote for the one out down. They just turn it and then just vote for number one.
Okay,
is number
so
one.
obviously he knows his opponents for the flag bearership race. Have any names come up from the NDC side that send shivers down your spine for the 2028 elections?
Well, an election is an election. I don't know who the NDC is bringing. I'm not too sure. I've heard names. Let me first send my condolences to the Rawlinses. I think over the weekend, Nana Konadu Agyemang Rawlings was laid to rest. Yes. May her soul rest in peace.
Amen.
It's clearly telling us, as followers of politics, is that certain eras are coming to an end. Okay? And so, President John Dramani Mahama becomes the foundation for the NDC now, and becomes the father of the NDC. And so, whoever comes after him is important. I'm not too sure. I've heard a few names. The sitting chairman, Esiedun Ketia, I've heard his name. The sitting chief of staff, Julius Debra, I've heard his name. I'm sure
I'm throwing in the finance minister.
The vice president, Professor Nano Poku-Agyemang. I'm sure I've heard the finance minister to Forcing. There are talks about Haruna Idrisu coming in. There are conversations around North go, North cannot come. You know, all of those dynamics that they are playing. Well, I think that Kennedy is unique. Kennedy's uniqueness spans across board, because Kennedy is not discriminatory. Okay, Kennedy has a unism of people, and that's what he's been doing from 1990 till date. His philanthropic acts know no borders. I mean, he's always when there are floods, Kennedy is sending rice. He's sending foodstuffs. When Ghanaians are trapped in Lebanon, Kennedy is sending money to the foreign minister for the foreign minister to bring them to Ghana. And it costs a lot of money. And this is money he can keep. But he cares about people. So I don't think that there is anybody that the NDC can file that would be a threat to Kennedy's presidency January 2029. I'm certain that when Kennedy wins this flag bearership, all we need to do as a party is prepare hard enough to be able to take government from John Dramani Mahama.
Tell us, for people who have followed Kennedy in Agyapong and known that, you know, this is a business mogul who has traveled far, who has invested back in his country, who has supported young people, who he really is and what he stands for and why he does what he does.
Kennedy's story is one that inspires a lot of hope, because he has gone through the trenches. He has gone through the moral fabric of this country. Kennedy is Ghana-made. Kennedy was born in Asin-Dompem to a very simple family. Tender age, raised in Upper West region in Wa. Grew up through sixth form, went to Adisadel College, went to Winneba, and began his life as an entrepreneur at a very tender age, selling on the streets of Ghana, and pioneering that into working in Europe, in Germany, and going into the United States of America, coming back into Ghana to pioneer the Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition in the late 80s into the early 90s. Culture of silence, worked with Professor Dubois-Hin, worked very clearly with former President John Agyapong Kufuor, worked clearly with former President Nana Dankwa Kufuor-Addo. 24 years in Parliament, 6th-term Member of Parliament. Kennedy's story is one of a national industrialist who has really seen where Ghana is going to and proposes a brighter future for this country in terms of his industrialization agenda. He stated that at the time of Ghana's independence from 1957 to 1966, when Nkrumah was president, we still find evidence of Kwame Nkrumah's work in this country after almost 68 years of our independence, and clearly has seen that for him to be able to beat Nkrumah's legacy would be for the Ghanaian people to give him that opportunity to really industrialize this country, create jobs, sustainable jobs for the Ghanaian people, for the teeming young people, redistribute this country's ministries across the region, that Ghana for everyone and everyone for Ghana.
Okay. Before you go on, let me just let our viewers know, Doc, that this is a series that we're doing, and so we're going to be speaking to various representatives of the flag bearers, and especially those that, when we reach out to, are able to get to come on the show. So this is not just for Mr. Kennedy Agyapong's campaign team. Now, Doc, you've talked about the plethora of things that he's done in terms of his wide travel and the businesses that he's had. How is that experience coming to bear for job creation in Ghana, for economic growth in Ghana? Because the MPP has had its turn to lead this country. The MPP lost in the election because for some reason it looks like it didn't sit well with Ghanaians how the economy of the country was being managed. Why does it seem like he is the right man who has the economic keys to this country?
Well, I think that Kennedy has professed to be a creator of jobs, and his industrialization drive is very clear and very key. If you look at Kennedy, he has 16 companies. And every moment he's thinking of creating jobs, he's thinking of reinvesting into his companies that he has begun. He's thinking of making sure that there is continual livelihood in the lives of people. And if you look at the data that states that close to about 500,000 people enter into the labor market every single year. And as an academic, you also realize that we graduate close to about 300,000 young people every single year across all the universities in this country. This week, you realize that there are about 140,000 people that are beginning their national service. And so job creation is key. And Kennedy has stated very clearly, if you look at all the industries that he has, his coal store that he has, his factories that he has a rubber factory, he has a steel plant factory that he himself has invested in, he has a media company. Sustainable jobs that he has created over the years, created about 7,000 jobs in this country single-handedly as a politician, reinvesting all his investment back into the local economy of this country. And so if you look at all of those things that he has done as an individual, you clearly would see that if the Ghanaian people give him an opportunity, he will be able to create that environment for private sectors to strive.
Is it looking at revamping the MPP's policies of 1D, 1S and all of that, or is a whole different scheme of things that he's going to be doing?
Well, I think that Kennedy's vision is very unique because every leader has a very unique vision, and clearly John Agyapong Kufuor had a very clear, unique vision of ensuring that mothers have good maternal care. And Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came to ensure that children go to school, and Kennedy is coming to ensure that he creates jobs. And I stated about the redistribution of the ministries. You are aware that Kennedy has promised that he will send the Ministry of Agric to Tamale, and to be able to ensure that the resources of the country are close to where the ministries are.
Is it realistic?
Absolutely,
you look at
absolutely.
The distance between the capital and
absolutely,
the north.
Absolutely. I think that we need to get to a stage where we don't look at Accra as the only capital for Ghana. We need to be able to bring Ghana closer to the people, because Ghana belongs to the people. You have Ministry of Agric that goes to Tamale, which has an airport there. 90% of that is going to be turned into cargo. At the moment, Tamale Airport is just for human beings. I mean, it's just an air flight that goes in and out, and we're going to turn 90% of that into cargo. You are aware in the northern part of Ghana, Upper East, Upper West, Northeast, Northern region and Savannah, there are a lot of raw materials that comes in there. If you're able to work very hard, you would be able to send a lot of your goods to Europe in 5 hours. Your goods would go into Europe. Cattle, live, livestock, cattle that we do it in the butchery can go to Europe in 5 hours. You fly at 11 o'clock in the evening, you arrive in Europe by 5 a.m.
So what does this look like? How long is the tenure or the term to be able to realistically see this come to life? Because you're talking of the cargo planes and all of that, and for now it's domestic. For how long? Is he going to use 2028 to what, the next 4 years?
No, I think that the infrastructure is already in place. The runway is an international airport. And so all you need to do is to ensure that you have a clear policy that brings in the investment. All you need to do is to talk to all the cargo planes that we're beginning to have a lot of goods in our country, and you can pick it right from Tamale and send it to any parts of the world, particularly Europe. You have yam that comes from the northern region. You have shea that comes from the northern region. You have cotton that comes from the northern region. Benin is building on cotton, and one of their investments is coming clearly from cotton. And Kennedy has also stated that he's sending Ministry of Tourism to Volta region. You know, the distance between Greater Accra and Ho by flight is 15 minutes.
Right.
Yes, by flight is 15 minutes. So it's going to boost domestic air travel, which is not what we have. I mean, in this country, our airlines are just two. Many years ago, we used to have a lot more. But if you go to Southern Africa, you have Mango, you have all of those other airlines that you can easily use to travel within the Southern Hemisphere, from Joburg to Botswana to Swaziland and all of those other countries. And that's what we're trying to do. He's also going to be sending Ministry of Education to Central region.